Hey everyone, welcome back to Beast History. Tonight, you have an invitation. You're going to a dinner party in ancient Rome, but I need you to forget everything you think you know about polite gatherings. This is no friendly get-together over a bottle of wine and some pasta. This is a social combat zone. It's a high-wire act performed over a canyon of public humiliation. It's an audition for your very survival in the most ruthless city on earth. The Roman dinner party, the cena, was a stage, and if you played your part wrong, you didn't just risk embarrassment. You risked ruin. Your career, your reputation, your future. It could all be dismantled between the appetizers and the dessert. This wasn't a meal, it was a weapon. And tonight, we're going to teach you how to survive it. More than that, we're going to teach you how to win. To do that, we need a guide, a man on the inside, so let's meet him. His name is Lucius Vettius, and as we join him, he is in a state of meticulously controlled panic. Lucius is not a senator. He wasn't born into one of the ancient families that could trace their lineage back to the founding of Rome, the kind of men who felt they had a divine right to rule the world. Lucius is what they called an equestrian. Think of it as Rome's 1%, but not the old money, blue-blooded 1%. He's new money. His family's fortune doesn't come from vast ancestral lands handed down for 500 years. It comes from shipping contracts, from owning warehouses down at the port of Ostia, from trading grain from Egypt and wine from Gaul. He is wealthy, very wealthy. He lives in a fine house on the slopes of the Esquiline Hill, with more slaves than he can count and mosaics that would make your jaw drop. But in the eyes of the true Roman elite, the senatorial class, he's still just a businessman, a glorified merchant, a man who works for a living, which to them is a vaguely vulgar concept. Lucius is ambitious. He doesn't just want to be rich, he wants to be respected. He wants a seat at the real table. He wants his sons to have the opportunities he never did, to enter the Senate, to command legions, to have their names carved into the history of the Republic. And to do that, he needs more than money. He needs connections. He needs a patron, a powerful, old money senator who can open the doors that are currently bolted shut. And that's why, on this particular afternoon in the year 71 BC, Lucius is staring at a thin, rectangular piece of wood coated in blackened beeswax, delivered just an hour ago by a liveried slave. It's an invitation. Scratched into the wax are a handful of words that have sent a jolt of pure, unadulterated terror and wild, intoxicating hope through his entire being. He has been summoned to a cena, not just any cena, a dinner at the villa of Titus Cassianus Longinus. Now you have to understand who Titus is. Titus isn't just a senator, he's a force of nature. His family, the Cassii, were there when the last king was kicked out of Rome 400 years ago. They helped build the Republic. His great-grandfather was a consul who conquered a province. His grandfather was a censor, the man who held the moral authority to expel unworthy men from the Senate. Titus himself is a former praetor, a high judge and military commander, and it's an open secret that he's positioning himself for a run at the consulship, the highest office in Rome. He is everything Lucius is not. Old family, old power, effortless authority. He's a political kingmaker, a man whose quiet nod of approval in the right circles could launch a career, and whose frown could utterly destroy one. Titus Cassianus Longinus does not host dinner parties for his health. He hosts them to take the measure of men, to forge alliances, to trade favors, and sometimes just for the sheer pleasure of watching lesser men squirm. And Lucius Vettius, the new money man from the Esquiline Hill, has just been invited to squirm. The panic sets in first. What does it mean? Is it a good sign, a trap? Is he being considered for something, or is he simply this week's entertainment? The anxiety is a physical thing, a cold knot in his stomach. But Lucius is a Roman, and a Roman, above all, is practical. The panic is immediately suppressed and replaced by a methodical, almost military-style planning process. This isn't a dinner, it's a campaign, and he will prepare for it like one. First, the look. In Rome, your clothes weren't just clothes, they were your resume, your social security number, and your billboard all rolled into one. For a citizen, this meant one thing: the toga. And let's be clear, the toga is one of the most absurd and impractical garments ever invented by mankind. It is not a sheet you casually drape over your shoulder. It is a massive, heavy, semicircular piece of wool, something like 20 feet long and 7 feet wide. It's a blanket, a thick, unwieldy, oppressively hot woolen blanket. You cannot put it on by yourself. It's a two-slave job at minimum. They would lay it out, fold it into precise, ruler-straight pleats, and then drape and wrap and tuck it around your body in a complex ritual. The goal was to have it hang in elegant, carefully sculpted folds, with the left arm cradling the bulk of the fabric while the right arm remained free. But free is a relative term. You can't really use your right arm for much. Lift it too high, and you risk disturbing the delicate architecture of the pleats. Move too quickly, and the whole thing could start to unravel. The toga is a garment designed to communicate one thing: I am so important, I don't need to do any physical labor whatsoever. It's a walking prison of status. For this dinner, Lucius needs the perfect toga, not his everyday toga virilis, the simple, off-white toga of a standard citizen. No, he needs his best one, bleached to a brilliant, almost glowing white. This isn't quite the toga candida, the specially whitened toga worn by men actively running for office, but it's close. It's meant to project purity, importance, and not coincidentally, the fact that he can afford the expensive laundry bills to keep it that way. His house slaves are summoned. The toga is inspected for any loose threads, any hint of a stain. It's perfect. Next, grooming. This is non-negotiable. Lucius heads to his private bathhouse, a smaller version of the great public baths. He soaks he is scraped clean with a bronze tool called a strigil, and then he calls for his tonsor, his personal barber. In Rome, a beard was the mark of a philosopher, a rustic, or a man in deep mourning. For an ambitious man of society, a clean shave was essential. The tonsor arrives with his bronze razors, sharpened to a terrifying degree. It's a tense process. There's no shaving cream, no safety razor. Just oil, a steady hand, and the constant, low-grade fear of having your throat nicked. Once shaved, his skin is rubbed with expensive, scented oil from the East, cinnamon and myrrh. His hair is trimmed and styled. He must look clean, prosperous, and civilized. To show up at Titus's house looking unkempt would be like showing up to a board meeting in your pajamas. It's an insult. It says, I don't respect you enough to prepare. The final piece of the pregame puzzle is the entourage. You don't just walk to a dinner party alone. That would be unthinkable. It would make you look like a nobody. Lucius assembles a small troupe. A few of his clients, poorer citizens who depend on him for legal help and financial handouts, are instructed to accompany him. Their job is to flank him, to make him look important, to be a visible representation of his influence. He also selects 2 of his most handsome and well-dressed slaves to walk ahead. The entire procession is a carefully choreographed piece of street theater. As the appointed hour nears, they set off. The journey to Titus's villa on the Palatine Hill is itself a performance. The Palatine is the Beverly Hills of ancient Rome. It's where the old money lives, high above the stink and the noise of the city center. As Lucius and his entourage make their way through the crowded streets, they are a moving island of white wool and feigned serenity in a sea of chaos. The slaves in front shout for people to make way. The clients form a protective bubble. Lucius himself walks with a practiced gait, slow, dignified, a man of consequence moving through a world of lesser beings. He can smell the wood smoke from thousands of cooking fires, the stench from the open gutters, the scent of baking bread from a corner shop. He hears the constant rumble of wagons, the shouting of merchants, the cries of beggars. And as he ascends the slope of the Palatine, the air gets cleaner, the noise gets fainter, and the houses get bigger. Much, much bigger. Finally, they arrive. Titus's domus isn't just a house, it's a statement of power. It's not flashy in a gaudy, new money way. It's something far more intimidating, old, immense, and self-assured. The entrance, the vestibulum, is a deep, covered portico. As Lucius steps into it, the noise of the city is instantly cut off. He is now in Titus's world. His clients are dismissed, they've served their purpose. They will wait outside for hours until he emerges. Lucius, alone now, approaches the massive wooden door. Before he can even knock, the door swings open. A slave, the ossuarius or doorkeeper, stands there. He's a giant German, probably a former warrior captured in some long-forgotten campaign, now chained by the ankle to the doorpost. It's a subtle but brutal display of the host's power. At his feet, on the floor of the entryway, is a mosaic. It's an image of a snarling dog straining at a leash, and beneath it the words Cave Canem, beware of the dog. This isn't a friendly warning. It's a message to everyone who enters, you are on my territory, tread carefully. Lucius is led through the short entryway, the fauces, and into the heart of the house, the atrium. The atrium is a vast, central hall, open to the sky in the middle. Rainwater collects in a shallow pool, the impluvium, set into the marble floor. The walls are covered in breathtaking frescoes depicting scenes from Greek mythology, the Trojan War, the labors of Hercules. Arranged around the room are wax masks, the death masks of Titus's ancestors, staring down with blank patrician eyes. It's an army of dead aristocrats, a silent jury judging everyone who enters. The message is clear. This family has been here forever. You are just a temporary visitor. And there, standing by the impluvium, is Titus Cassianus Longinus himself. He is older, perhaps in his late 50s, tall and lean. He wears his own toga with an ease that Lucius can only envy. It seems a part of him, not a costume. He has a thin, aristocratic face, a sharp nose, and eyes that are intelligent, amused, and utterly cold. He smiles, but it doesn't reach his eyes. "Ah, Vedius," he says, his voice smooth and resonant. "Excellent, I am so glad you could join us." The greeting is a critical test. Lucius must respond with the perfect blend of deference and self-respect. He can't grovel, but he can't seem arrogant either. He inclines his head slightly. "The honor is all mine, Longinus. Your invitation was most gracious." He uses the formal surname. It's a sign of respect. Titus gives a small, almost imperceptible nod. The first test is passed. Barely. Another slave appears, silent as a ghost, and gestures for Lucius to follow. It's time. He is being led to the battlefield, the triclinium, the dining room. As he enters, his heart sinks just a little. The room is magnificent, of course. 3 wide couches, each large enough for 3 people to recline on, are arranged in a U-shape around a central, low table. The walls are painted with more frescoes, these of pastoral, peaceful landscapes, a stark contrast to the tension in the room. But it's the seating arrangement that matters. This is the social map of the evening, and it's brutal in its clarity. The 3 couches were not equal. The couch to the right of the entrance was the lowest in status, the locus emus. The one opposite the entrance was the most prestigious, the locus medius. And the one on the left, the locus summus, was for the host and his most honored guests. Even on each couch, there were 3 positions of varying honor. Your exact spot broadcasted your precise social standing to everyone in the room. It was a diagram of power. The host, Titus, takes his place at the head of the locus summus. The most honored guest, a serving consul no less, is to his right. Lucius scans the room, trying to read the map. He sees a few other senators, some grizzled military types, and then he sees him. A young man, barely 30, with a bored, arrogant expression on his face. Marcus Fabius Pictor, a patrician. His family was even older and stuffier than Titus's. He's known for his biting wit and his utter contempt for anyone outside his own tiny, blue-blooded circle. Marcus catches Lucius's eye and gives him a slow, dismissive blink. He sees Lucius for exactly what he is, an upstart. The rival has been established. A slave directs Lucius to his spot. It's on the locus emus, the lowest couch. But he is at the head of that couch, the most prestigious spot on the least prestigious couch. It's a masterclass in social messaging from Titus. It says, "You are here. You are in the game, but you are on probation. You are the best of the worst. Impress me." Lucius reclines, leaning on his left elbow on a plush cushion. Slaves appear and gently remove his sandals. Another slave comes around with a silver basin and a pitcher of warm, rose-scented water to wash his hands. The initial small talk begins. It's a minefield. The men around him are all players in the great game of Roman politics. They talk about the grain prices, a recent speech in the Senate, the games held last week. Every opinion is a potential misstep. Praising the wrong general or criticizing the wrong politician could be a fatal error. Lucius keeps his comments brief, intelligent, and non-committal. He listens more than he talks, trying to gauge the alliances in the room. Who agrees with whom? Who defers to whom? The first course arrives. The gustatio, the Roman equivalent of appetizers. A platter is placed on the central table. There are olives, fresh cheese with herbs, salads of bitter greens. And in small glazed bowls the famous delicacy, gliers, dormice. Fattened in terracotta jars in the dark, then baked and stuffed with honey and poppy seeds. Lucius has had them before. He knows the drill. You pick up the tiny, crispy creature with 3 fingers of your right hand, the proper way to eat, and consume it in 1 or 2 bites, trying to look as elegant as possible. The wine begins to flow. At this early stage of the meal, it is heavily diluted with water served cool. It's meant to refresh, not to intoxicate. The atmosphere is still formal, still tense. Lucius is navigating the cross currents of conversation, parrying a subtly condescending question from Marcus Fabius Pictor about the shipping business, making a knowledgeable comment about a recent poetry reading to impress an older senator next to him. He's doing okay, he's surviving, but then he overhears something. The grizzled military man on the next couch is speaking in a low voice to his neighbor, a senator. They're talking about Pompey the Great, the most popular and powerful general of the age, currently in Spain wrapping up a war. The military man mutters something about Pompey's supply lines being overstretched, that his letters to the Senate are growing more and more demanding, more and more arrogant. He says that some in the Senate are beginning to worry that Pompey is becoming more powerful than the state itself. It's a tiny fragment of conversation, not meant for his ears. But in the shark tank of the triclinium, information is ammunition. This is a nugget of pure gold. It's high-level, dangerous political gossip. It's a sign of a potential fracture within the elite, and Lucius now possesses it. He keeps his face a perfect mask of calm neutrality, taking a slow sip of his wine. But inside, his mind is racing. This information could be the key. It could be the thing that elevates him from a probationary guest to a valuable player. He could try to use it. Later in the evening, when the moment is right, he could find a way to have a private word with his host, Titus. He could subtly drop this piece of intelligence, showing that he is a man who hears things, a man who is connected. It would be a way of proving his value, of showing that he's more than just a merchant. It's a massive gamble. If he plays it wrong, he'll look like a gossip-mongering fool, a man who trades in rumors, a fatal reputation. He would be exposed, humiliated. But if he plays it right, he could impress Titus in a way that no amount of polite dinner conversation ever could. It could be his defining moment. The other option is to do nothing, to keep his mouth shut, to eat his dormouse, smile politely, and remain safe. It's the sensible choice, the cautious choice. But in Rome, caution rarely gets you a seat on the high couch. He has the information. The question is, does he have the nerve to use it? And this is a brutal decision. He can try to leverage this dangerous gossip in a private word with the host, Titus, to prove his value. A move that could catapult his status or expose him as a common rumor monger. Or he can keep his mouth shut, remain safe, but lose this golden opportunity to impress the one man who can make or break his future. What would you have done in his shoes? Risk it all for a shot at the top, or play it safe and stay in your lane? Let me know your honest opinion in the comments below. Alright, we left Lucius Vettius with a piece of political dynamite in his pocket. He's overheard that the establishment is starting to sour on their golden boy general, Pompey the Great. His choice was to risk everything by using this information to impress his powerful host, Titus, or to play it safe and keep his mouth shut. Now, Lucius is a product of his world. He's an ambitious Roman, and for a man like that, ambition is not a quiet suggestion, it's a roaring fire. He didn't get this far by playing it safe. He decides, with a cold dread that is almost exhilarating, that he will use the information. Not now, the moment isn't right. The air is still too thick with formality. But later, when the wine flows stronger and the tongues are looser, he will find his moment to strike. For now, he files the information away, a hidden dagger beneath his toga. His decision made, a strange calm settles over him. He's no longer just a passive guest. He's a player with a plan, waiting for his opening. This newfound resolve seems to project from him, a subtle shift in his demeanor from nervous deference to watchful confidence. Titus, a man who misses nothing, clocks the change. He gives Lucius a long, unreadable look from across the room, a flicker of interest in his cold eyes. He has no idea what Lucius has overheard, but he recognizes the look of a man who has decided to enter the game. And just like that, the rhythm of the evening shifts. The slaves clear away the remnants of the gustachio, the olive pits and empty dormouse bones. The first act is over. Now the main event begins, the prima mensa, the main course. And this is where a host like Titus truly demonstrates the terrifying scale of his wealth and power. What arrives next is not just food, it's theater. A procession of slaves enters, moving with practiced, silent efficiency. They carry enormous silver platters, so heavy they require 2 men to lift. The centerpiece, placed in the middle of the table, is a showstopper. It's a whole roasted pig, glistening with honey and spices. But this is no ordinary pig. This is a porcus troianus, a Trojan pig. It's a culinary joke, a testament to the host's wit and extravagance. With a flourish, a specially designated slave, the scissor, steps forward. He's not a butcher, he's an artist. He carries a long, elegant knife, and instead of just carving the pig, he begins to dance around it, his knife strokes synchronized to the sound of a softly playing flute. He makes a dramatic incision in the pig's belly, and a cascade of sizzling hot sausages and roasted thrushes tumbles out onto the platter, like the Greeks pouring out of the Trojan horse. The guests murmur their approval. It's a classic but always impressive. And it's just the beginning. Other platters arrive, a sensory onslaught. There's a dish of shimmering seafood, where the chef has painstakingly arranged different kinds of fish, shrimp, and squid into an elaborate mosaic depicting Neptune riding a hippocampus. There are birds, peacocks roasted, and then reassembled with their iridescent feathers, cranes, flamingos whose tongues were considered a supreme delicacy. There are platters of venison, boar, and hare, all swimming in incredibly complex, dark, and pungent sauces. And let's talk about those sauces. The Roman elite palate was nothing like ours. They were obsessed with the combination of sweet and sour, and their secret weapon, the ingredient that was in almost everything, was a substance called garum. Now garum, or its more refined cousin liquamen, was, to put it bluntly, fermented fish sauce. It was made by packing fish guts, blood, and whole small fish like sardines into large vats with immense amounts of salt, and letting it sit out in the sun to putrefy and break down for months. The salty, brown liquid that was drained off the top was the garum. It sounds utterly disgusting to us, but to a Roman, it was liquid gold. It provided a powerful, savory, umami flavor, the way soy sauce or Worcestershire sauce does for us. A good, aged garum from a specific port, like Cartagena in Spain, could cost a fortune. The air in the triclinium is thick with its pungent, briny aroma, mixed with the smells of exotic spices. Pepper from India, cloves from some far-off, unnamed island, and perhaps even a hint of silphium. Silphium was the ultimate luxury spice. A wild plant that grew only in a small coastal region of Libya, its resin was so prized for its flavor and supposed medicinal properties that it was worth more than its weight in silver. The Romans loved it so much they ate it into extinction. By the time of the Emperor Nero, they said only a single stalk could be found. But here, at Titus's table, its unique, oniony herbal scent still hangs in the air, a testament to a level of wealth that can command even the rarest things on earth. Now Lucius has to eat this mountain of food, and he has to do it while lying on his side, propped up on one elbow, using only 3 fingers of his right hand. This is the art of Roman dining. It's a physical challenge. Your left arm, the one you're leaning on, quickly starts to go numb. You have to subtly shift your weight without looking like you're fidgeting. Eating the saucy, messy food with just your fingers requires immense skill. You can't be seen to be licking your fingers like a barbarian. You must eat cleanly, elegantly. A slave is always nearby with a bowl of water to rinse your fingers between bites, and you have your mappa. The mappa is a large, fine linen napkin that you bring with you. It's your personal piece of equipment. You use it to dab your lips to wipe your fingers, but it also has another, crucial purpose. At the end of the meal, it was customary for the host to offer the guests leftovers to take home. These were called apophyeta. You would discreetly wrap these choice morsels, a piece of that Trojan pig, a few of those exotic birds, into your mappa to carry home. This was part of the social contract. It was a sign of the host's generosity, but there was a fine line to walk. You had to take something; to refuse would be an insult, but if you took too much, you'd look like a greedy freeloader. Lucius, like everyone else, must master this delicate calculation of gratitude and restraint. As the main course progresses, the wine becomes a central character in the drama. The initial, heavily diluted wine is replaced. A slave brings in a large, ornate mixing bowl, the crater, and now a ritual begins. The guests must choose an arbiter bibendi, a master of the drinking. It's usually done by a roll of the knuckle bones, a Roman form of dice. Tonight, by a stroke of either luck or theatrical arrangement by the host, the lot falls to Marcus Fabius Pictor, Lucius's patrician rival. Marcus accepts the role with a smug little smile. The arbiter bibendi has absolute authority over the wine for the rest of the night. He decides the ratio of wine to water. A conservative master might choose a ratio of 3 parts water to 1 part wine. A more reckless one might choose 2 to 1, or even 1 to 1, a ratio considered dangerously strong, fit only for barbarians or a wild party. Marcus, wanting to cause a little chaos, declares a ratio of 2 parts water to 1 part wine. It's strong enough to loosen tongues and fray tempers. The slaves begin mixing the dark, potent wine from Falernum with cool water in the crater, then ladling it into the guests' cups. With the stronger wine, the conversation shifts. It becomes louder, more animated, and infinitely more dangerous. The safe topics of the appetizer round are abandoned. Men start to venture opinions. They debate the merits of a recent law, the performance of a provincial governor. Lucius is on high alert. This is where a man can hang himself with a single sentence. He knows to avoid specifics. He doesn't praise General A or condemn Politician B. Instead, he speaks in the abstract. When the topic of provincial governance comes up, he doesn't talk about the scandal-plagued governor of Sicily. Instead, he offers a thoughtful observation about the importance of Roman justice in the provinces, quoting a line from the Greek philosopher Plato. It sounds intelligent, it's vaguely patriotic, and it is completely, utterly noncommittal. He's walking the tightrope. But Marcus Fabius Pictor, the newly crowned wine master, is looking for sport, and he's decided Lucius is his target. He turns to Lucius, his voice carrying across the room, intentionally drawing the attention of the other guests. Vedius, he says, with a tone of mock curiosity. My father was telling me that the price of Egyptian grain has skyrocketed. I imagine that's been quite a windfall for you shipping magnates. It must be so satisfying to profit from the hunger of the common man. The room goes quiet. It's a brutal, direct hit. Marcus is framing Lucius as a war-profiteering parasite, a man who gets rich off the state's needs. He's highlighting Lucius's new money, origins, and contrasting it with the supposed noble service of the senatorial class, who would of course never stoop to be involved in trade. Which was, of course, a complete lie. Most of them had vast commercial interests, hidden behind front men and clever contracts. Lucius feels a hot flush of anger, but he cannot show it. To lose his temper would be to lose the game. He has to respond with urbanitas, that uniquely Roman concept of cool, witty, sophisticated grace under pressure. He takes a slow, deliberate sip of his wine, setting his cup down before he answers. He looks directly at Marcus, not with anger but with an expression of mild, pitying amusement. "Ah, Pictor," he replies, his voice calm and even, "you are quite right. Ensuring that the legions are fed and the citizens of Rome do not starve is indeed a profitable venture. It is a burden that we equestrians are willing to bear, so that men of noble birth, such as yourself, can be free to focus on more important matters. Like choosing the wine. It's a perfect counterpunch. He has owned the accusation and turned it into a virtue. He's framed his work as a patriotic duty, a service to the state. And the final line is a subtle, perfectly aimed jab, reminding everyone that Marcus's only real accomplishment of the evening is getting everyone drunk. A few of the older senators let out a short, sharp laugh. Even Titus cracks the barest hint of a smile. Lucius has scored a point. Marcus's face tightens. He's been outplayed and he knows it. The tension ratchets up another notch. The food is cleared, but the drinking continues. And now the entertainment begins in earnest. The mood must be elevated from a mere dinner to a cultural event. This is where a host shows off not just his wealth, but his refinement. The first wave of entertainment is always highbrow. A slave enters, carrying a scroll. This is the lector, a professional reader with a clear, resonant voice. Titus announces that they will be treated to a reading of the latest odes from Horace, a poet currently in high favor. The lector begins to read, his voice filling the room with verses about the simple joys of country life, the inevitability of death, and the wisdom of seizing the day. The guests are expected to listen attentively, to look thoughtful and appreciative. This is a test of your cultural capital. After the reading, Titus might turn to a guest and say, "A powerful sentiment, is it not? What do you take from it?" You had to have an intelligent opinion ready. To look bored or, even worse, confused was social suicide. Marcus Pictor sees another opportunity to trap Lucius. When the reader finishes a particularly complex ode that alludes to a little-known Greek myth, Marcus turns to Lucius. A challenging passage, Vedius. The allusions to the tragic fate of Ibycus are quite obscure. I don't suppose that's a story they tell in the counting houses down at the port. The insult is clear. You're just a grubby merchant. What would you know of classical literature? But Lucius had prepared for this. He knew his educational background was a potential weakness, so he had spent a small fortune on a private Greek tutor. He'd spent months reading the classics, not for pleasure but as a weapon in his social arsenal. Lucius smiles serenely. Ah, the cranes of Ibycus, a tragic tale indeed. It always reminds me of the poet Simonides' observation that the wicked may escape the eyes of men, but they can never escape the eyes of the gods. A lesson, I think, that holds true whether one is counting coins or counting votes in the Senate. Checkmate. He has not only answered the question correctly, but he has pivoted it into a subtle philosophical jab at the notoriously corrupt political world his rival inhabits. The old military commander next to him grunts in approval. Lucius has survived another attack. He is not just holding his own, he is excelling. He's demonstrated wealth, wit, and now cultural sophistication. The literary portion of the evening gives way to a philosophical one. Spurred on by Lucius's comment, one of the older senators launches into a debate on the merits of Stoicism versus Epicureanism. This wasn't just idle chatter. Your chosen philosophy was a political statement. The Stoics, with their emphasis on duty, self-control, and service to the state, were the ideological bedrock of the conservative Roman aristocracy. The Epicureans, who argued that the highest good was the pursuit of pleasure and freedom from anxiety, were often viewed with suspicion, as being selfish and un-Roman. Of course, the irony is staggering. Here are a dozen of the richest men in the world, lying on plush couches, gorging themselves on food and wine, being served by an army of slaves, all extolling the virtues of Stoic self-denial and duty. Lucius knows what part he has to play. He dutifully parrots the Stoic line, speaking about the importance of virtue over pleasure, of placing the needs of the Republic before one's own. It's a complete performance, a lie he tells with utter conviction, and everyone else in the room is doing the same. They are all intellectual gladiators, fighting with philosophical concepts instead of swords, in an arena of profound hypocrisy. The evening is wearing on, the wine is taking its toll, faces are flushed, voices are louder. The rigid formality of the beginning has dissolved into a boisterous, wine-fueled haze. Lucius has navigated the treacherous waters of the main course and the intellectual combat that followed. He has parried the attacks of his rival and impressed his host. He feels a growing sense of confidence. He has survived the most dangerous part of the evening, or so he thinks. He doesn't realize that the night is about to take a much darker, much stranger turn. The high-minded entertainment is over. The next act is about to begin, and it will appeal not to the mind, but to the gut. The descent is just beginning. The remnants of the Trojan pig and the seafood mosaic have been cleared away. The prima mensa is officially over. A new energy begins to hum through the triclinium. This marks a formal transition. The slaves bring out the secunda mensa, the second table, which is what we would call the dessert course. There are no heavy baked sweets in the modern sense. Instead, the platters are piled high with fresh fruits, figs, grapes, pomegranates, as well as nuts and small honey cakes. This course is a signal. The formal part of the dinner, the cena, is technically over. Now, the commissatio, the drinking party proper, begins. Marcus Fabius Pictor, still acting as the smug arbiter by Bendi, seizes the moment. He stands up a little unsteadily and raises his cup. To Bacchus, he proclaims, let the god of wine truly join us. He announces a new wine-to-water ratio, 1:1. This is no longer social drinking. This is a declaration of intent. The intention is to get profoundly, unequivocally drunk. The slaves begin pouring this potent new mixture, and the last vestiges of senatorial sobriety begin to evaporate. The masks of civility, held in place for hours, start to slip. And with this shift in mood comes a radical shift in the entertainment. The refined, intellectual performances of the poet and the philosopher are done. Titus did not get to his position of power by being boring. He knows that to truly command the loyalty and fear of men, you must appeal to their more primal instincts. The doors of the triclinium swing open, and a new troupe of performers enters. The cerebral is about to give way to the visceral. First come the musicians, not a lone, dignified flute player, but a small ensemble. A man with a lyre, another with a clattering set of castanets, and a woman playing a high-pitched, reedy pipe called an aulos. The music they play is not the gentle, melodic tune from before. It's a riotous, driving rhythm with a distinctly foreign, Eastern flavor. And with them come the dancers. They are women from Gades, a city in southern Spain famous throughout the Roman world for its performers. They are stunning, dressed in brightly colored, flowing silks, and their dancing is nothing like the stately, formal dances of the Roman aristocracy. It is fluid, suggestive, and outrageously erotic. They sway their hips, their arms weaving intricate patterns in the air, their movements becoming more and more frenzied as the music quickens. The atmosphere in the room changes instantly. The political talk dies down, replaced by loud, drunken shouts of appreciation. The senators, who just an hour before were soberly discussing the stoic virtue of self-control, are now leaning forward, their eyes fixed on the dancers, their faces flushed with wine and lust. It is a breathtaking display of the hypocrisy that lies at the heart of this society. One moment, they are guardians of Roman morality. The next, they are leering patrons of a foreign striptease. Lucius watches, trying to keep his composure. He drinks the strong wine, but slowly, carefully. He knows he needs to keep his wits about him. He claps and cheers along with the others, performing the role of the appreciative guest, but his mind is working, analyzing. He sees how Titus watches his guests, his eyes missing nothing, gauging their reactions, seeing how far they let themselves go. This too, Lucius realizes, is a test. Can you indulge without losing yourself completely? After the dancers comes the next act, the mimes. Now a Roman mime is not the silent, white-faced performer we think of. These were actors, and their performances were short, bawdy, and often satirical plays. A group of 3 actors, one playing a foolish old husband, one a beautiful young wife, and one a clever, handsome lover, take the floor. They perform a slapstick comedy about adultery, filled with crude jokes and physical humor. The guests roar with laughter. It's lowbrow and they love it. But then the mimes shift to their next sketch, and this one is far more dangerous. They begin to act out a scene that is a thinly veiled satire of a famous and famously pompous senator, a man who is not present at the party, but who is a well-known political rival of their host, Titus. The mime playing the senator puffs out his chest, speaks in a ridiculous, booming voice, and spouts garbled Greek philosophy while trying to pick the pockets of the other actors. It is vicious, personal, and hilarious. It's also an incredibly risky move by Titus. To mock a powerful senator so openly, even in his own home, is a sign of supreme confidence or supreme recklessness. It's a warning to everyone in the room. This is what happens to my enemies. They become a punchline at my parties. Lucius laughs along with everyone else, but a cold chill runs down his spine. He understands the message perfectly. This is the power he is trying to court. The power to humiliate, to destroy a man's reputation for the after-dinner amusement of his friends. The night is descending into a fever dream of wine, sweat, and noise. But Titus has one final, ultimate status symbol to display. He claps his hands, and the mimes and musicians retreat. A different set of slaves enters the room. These are not the elegant, well-dressed household slaves. These are massive, muscular men with scarred faces and broken noses. They quickly and efficiently clear the central space, even pushing the heavy dining table to one side. A hush falls over the guests. They know what's coming. Titus leans forward, a flicker of genuine excitement in his eyes. "My friends," he announces, his voice cutting through the drunken haze. A little something to aid the digestion. 2 men are led into the center of the room. They are gladiators. They are not the superstar champions of the Colosseum. These are likely prisoners of war or condemned criminals, purchased by Titus for his own private use. One is a Thracian, armed with a small round shield and a curved sword. The other is a Samnite with a large oblong shield and a short stabbing sword. They are bare-chested, wearing only loincloths and elaborate bronze helmets. They salute Titus, their voices flat and devoid of emotion. Ave Domine mortuary te salutant. Hail, Master, we who are about to die salute you. And then they begin to fight. In the confined space of the triclinium, the effect is sickeningly intimate. There is no sand to soak up the blood. The clang of sword on shield is deafeningly loud. The grunts of exertion, the panted breaths, it's all right there, just a few feet away from the reclining guests. Lucius is frozen. This is a world away from the sanitized spectacle of the public amphitheater. This is raw, brutal, and personal. He can see the sweat glistening on the men's bodies, the desperate fear in their eyes behind the visors of their helmets. The guests, however, are experts. They shout advice. To the leg. He's open on his left side. They wager on the outcome, tossing small coins onto a platter. The Thracian is quicker, more agile, dancing around his opponent. The Samnite is a wall of defense, waiting for one mistake. The fight is short and savage. The Thracian feints, the Samnite overcommits, and the Thracian's curved blade darts in under the big shield, sinking deep into the Samnite's thigh. The man cries out, a choked, horrible sound, and falls to his knees, his shield clattering on the marble floor. He drops his sword and raises one finger on his left hand, the traditional appeal for mercy. All eyes turn to Titus. As the host, he is the editor of this little drama. He holds the power of life and death. He looks around the room, polling his guests. Some, drunk and bloodthirsty, give the thumbs-down gesture for death. Others, perhaps a little sobered by the raw violence, hold a closed fist with the thumb inside, a sign for mercy. Titus soaks in the moment, savoring his power. He looks at the wounded man bleeding out on his floor. Then he gives a slow, deliberate, almost lazy thumbs down. The Thracian steps forward, places one foot on the back of the kneeling Samnite, and drives his sword down into the base of his neck. It's over in a second. Slaves rush forward to drag the body out, while another scatters sawdust over the spreading pool of blood. The guests cheer. The winner is given a palm branch and a small purse of silver. He is then led away, back to his cage, to wait for the next dinner party. Lucius feels sick. A man has just been killed for their entertainment, no more significant than the dancers or the roast pig. He tries to hide his revulsion, to maintain the impassive, entertained expression of the other guests. He takes a large gulp of the 1-to-1 wine, hoping it will burn away the image of the dying man's eyes. This, he understands with chilling clarity, is the true face of the Roman elite. Not the poetry, not the philosophy. This, the casual, absolute power over life and death, wielded as a party favor. It is in this moment, with the smell of blood still hanging in the air and the party at its peak of drunken chaos, that Lucius feels a hand on his shoulder. It's Titus. His host has moved silently from his own couch and is now reclining next to him. A good fight, was it not? Titus says, his voice a low murmur, meant only for Lucius's ears. A clear demonstration of what happens when one hesitates. Lucius just nods, his throat too dry to speak. You have handled yourself well tonight, Vedius, Titus continues, his eyes boring into him. You have wit, you have poise, you don't anger easily. These are valuable qualities. But they are not enough. He pauses, taking a sip of his own wine. The noise of the party seems to fade into a distant roar. The only thing Lucius can focus on is the man next to him. Power in this city, Titus says softly, is not just about being smart or being liked. It's about being useful. It's about being willing to do what other men are not. You heard the talk earlier. About Pompey. Lucius's blood runs cold. Titus knew. Of course he knew. He probably arranged for Lucius to overhear it. It was all part of the test. Pompey is a great general, Titus says, a dangerous edge to his voice. But he is becoming a great problem. He believes he is Rome. Some of us believe Rome should be left to the Romans, not to one man's ambition. Arrangements are being made. Alliances are being formed. A man like you, with your network of ships and suppliers, a man who knows what is moving and where. You could be very useful to the cause of the Republic. Here it is, the offer. It's not about a business deal or a minor political appointment. It's an invitation to join a political conspiracy against the most powerful man in the Roman world. It is treason. Titus spells it out, his voice a whisper. There is a senator, Gaius Scribonius Curio, a loud, foolish man, but a fervent supporter of Pompey. He owns a series of grain warehouses that are critical to Pompey's allies here in the city. I need those warehouses to be financially compromised. I need a man with your expertise to orchestrate a series of unfortunate events. A fire, a shipment gone missing, a sudden calling in of debts. Ruin him, cripple him, and in doing so you will send a message to Pompey's faction, and you will secure your place with us. The proposition hangs in the air between them, more shocking than the death of the gladiator. Titus is asking him to use his commercial skills to utterly destroy another man for political gain. It's a dirty, vicious, back-alley move. It's a betrayal of every rule of commerce, but it is the very essence of Roman power politics. If he succeeds, he will have Titus as his patron. The doors to the Senate, to power, to everything he ever wanted will swing wide open. He will be on the inside, but he will be a conspirator, a criminal. His hands will be permanently stained. If he fails or if the plot is discovered, he will be crushed. His wealth will be confiscated. He will be exiled or worse. And if he refuses Titus right now in this room, he will have made the most powerful enemy he could possibly imagine. He will be a dead man walking. This is the final test. This is the real price of admission. Titus isn't just asking for his loyalty, he's asking for his soul. So here's the moment of truth. Titus's offer is a shortcut to the absolute pinnacle of Roman society. It's everything Lucius has ever wanted. But the cost is an act of profound betrayal that will stain his conscience and put him in Titus's debt forever. Is accepting this offer a stroke of pragmatic, ruthless genius, the only way to win a rigged game? Or is it a desperate, fatal gamble, a step off a moral cliff from which there is no return? I want to know what you think. Is this a moment of genius or a fatal mistake? Let me know in the comments. The roar of the party, the stench of wine and blood, the flickering lamplight, it all recedes into a dull, distant hum. For Lucius Vettius, the world has shrunk to the space of the few inches between him and Titus Cassianus Longinus. The offer, or rather the command, hangs in the air, thick and heavy. Ruin a man to prove your loyalty. Join our conspiracy or face the consequences of refusal. This is the true final course of the evening. A choice between damnation and oblivion. Lucius looks into Titus's cold, expectant eyes. He sees no room for negotiation, no path for equivocation. This is a binary choice, yes or no. In this single moment, he sees the entire architecture of Roman power laid bare. It is not built on laws or ideals. It is built on pacts like this one, made in smoke-filled rooms by men willing to do whatever it takes. Lucius has spent his entire life on the outside, looking in, dreaming of a seat at this very table. And now he understands the price. It's not money. It's not even just ambition. The price is a piece of yourself. He thinks of his rival, Marcus Fabius Pictor, across the room, now drunkenly pawing at one of the dancers. Marcus was born into this world. He would accept such an offer without a second thought. For him, the destruction of a political opponent is as natural as breathing. To compete, Lucius realizes he has to become what they are. He cannot win their game by playing by his own rules. He has to play by theirs. Taking a slow breath to steady his nerves, Lucius gives a single, sharp nod. "Curio's warehouses," he says, his voice barely a whisper but firm. "Consider them a liability." A slow, predatory smile spreads across Titus's face. It's the first genuine smile Lucius has seen from him all night. It's a terrifying sight. Titus claps him on the shoulder, a gesture that is both a sign of fellowship and a mark of ownership. "Excellent, Vettius. Excellent. I knew you were a man who understood how the world truly works. Welcome." Welcome, the word rings in Lucius's ears. He is in. He has passed the audition. He is one of them. The relief is so profound, it almost makes him dizzy, but it's immediately followed by a wave of cold, heavy dread. He has just agreed to become a weapon in another man's war. The party continues its descent into chaos, but for Lucius, it's over. He has made his move. He stays for a polite amount of time, exchanging a few meaningless pleasantries with the other guests, his mind a whirlwind. He accepts his mappa, his napkin, filled by a slave with a few choice pieces of roasted peacock and some honeyed dates, the spoils of the evening. Then the host finally gives the missio, the formal dismissal. The party is officially over. The guests begin to stir, a clumsy scramble of drunken senators looking for their sandals and their slaves. Lucius retrieves his own sandals, his movements stiff and automatic. He joins the slow procession out of the triclinium, back into the grand atrium with its silent, judging ancestors. He bids a formal farewell to Titus, a simple exchange of nods that is now laden with a new, secret meaning. Then he is outside, back in the vestibulum. His clients, who have been waiting for hours in the cool night air, rise to their feet. His personal slaves are there, one holding a lit lantern. He has survived. He has won. But as he steps out from the oppressive perfection of Titus's villa, he feels no triumph. The walk home is a journey through another Rome, a different world. The Palatine Hill is quiet and dark, the massive homes of the elite like sleeping fortresses. But as his small entourage descends into the valleys of the city, the night comes alive with a different kind of energy. The streets are unlit, narrow, and treacherous. The lantern held by his slave casts flickering, dancing shadows, revealing glimpses of a world that the guests at Titus's party pretend does not exist. He smells the filth from the overflowing gutters, the sour stench of cheap wine from a grimy tavern. He sees beggars huddled in doorways, their faces gaunt in the lantern light. He hears a drunken brawl erupt in a dark alleyway, followed by a scream. The city watch, the vigils patrol in groups, their heavy footfalls echoing on the cobblestones, but they can't be everywhere. Rome at night is a dangerous place for those who cannot afford a private security detail. This journey is a stark, sobering contrast. Just minutes ago, he was in a gilded cage, watching a man die for sport and agreeing to a plot that could reshape the politics of the Republic. Now he is navigating a world of visceral, everyday survival. The two Romes feel like they are on different planets, yet they are separated only by a few hundred feet of elevation and a high stone wall. He clutches the mappa in his hand, the fancy leftovers within now seeming absurd and obscene. Was the prize, a seat in that gilded cage, worth the price he had just agreed to pay? The walk home gives him too much time to think, and for the first time he is not sure. He arrives at his own domus. It is a fine house, one of the finest on the Esquiline Hill, but it feels small and plain after the casual magnificence of Titus's villa. He dismisses his entourage and enters. The house is silent. His wife and children are long asleep. He walks through his own atrium, the heart of his home. A single oil lamp burns, casting a soft glow. He is safe. But he doesn't feel safe. He feels like he has brought a disease back with him from the Palatine Hill, a sickness of paranoia and conspiracy. The next morning, Lucius wakes with a head pounding from the one-to-one wine. But the physical hangover is nothing compared to the moral one. The events of the night before feel both vivid and unreal, like a fever dream. Did he really agree to that? The answer comes before midday. A slave arrives at his door. He is not wearing the livery of Titus's household. He is dressed as a common courier. He hands Lucius a simple, unmarked wax tablet. Lucius breaks the seal. Inside, there is no greeting, no signature. There are only two words scratched into the wax: the Northern Dock. It's a reference to a specific set of warehouses owned by his new target, Gaius Scribonius Curio. The message is clear. The game has begun. Titus is not a man who waits. The paranoia starts immediately. Who is this courier? Is he truly from Titus, or is he a spy from another faction? Who in his own household can he trust to help him with this? Every transaction, every conversation is now freighted with a new, dangerous weight. He has stepped into the shadows, and he is beginning to realize that the shadows have their own rules. And this is where we zoom out from Lucius's very personal nightmare. His story, while fictional, is a perfect illustration of how the Roman dinner party, the cena, functioned as a critical political tool. It wasn't just a social gathering. It was an arena where the real business of the Republic was conducted. Lucius's experience wasn't an anomaly. It was the system working as intended. History is filled with real-life examples. Think of Lucius Licinius Lucullus, a general and statesman who became legendary for his banquets. After retiring from a brilliant military career, he poured his immense fortune into horticulture and gastronomy. His dinner parties were so mind-bogglingly extravagant that the word Lucullan still means luxurious to this day. He had multiple dining rooms in his villa, each named after a god. If he told his slave, "We dine in the Apollo room tonight," it was a code that unlocked a specific astronomical budget for the meal, something like 50,000 denarii, which was enough to pay a legionary for over 50 years. This wasn't just self-indulgence, it was power projection. It was a way of saying, "I am so wealthy and so influential that I can afford to spend a fortune on a single meal." It attracted political allies who wanted to be associated with that power, and it intimidated rivals who couldn't hope to compete. Or think of Julius Caesar. Caesar was a master of the political dinner. He was famous for hosting lavish but relaxed parties. He projected an image of effortless charm and generosity. He would invite his political opponents to dinner, disarm them with fine wine and witty conversation, and try to win them over to his side. He used the cena as a charm offensive, a way to build the personal alliances and the network of loyalty that he would later use to dismantle the Republic itself. All that talk of being a man of the people was a carefully crafted image, often projected from a reclining couch while eating flamingo tongues. We even have first-hand accounts of the social pressures of these events from men like Cicero, the great orator and statesman. In his letters to his friends, he frequently complains about the dinners he is socially obligated to attend. He writes about being bored to tears by a terrible poet his host has hired, or about the political anxiety of having to dine with men he knows are plotting against him. He once wrote that he would rather be at home eating a simple meal of vegetables with his wife than enduring another politically fraught banquet. Cicero's letters show us that the anxieties we've seen in Lucius, the pressure to perform, the danger of misspeaking, were very, very real for the Roman elite. And these parties could be the breeding ground for deadly conspiracies. The most famous example is the plot against Sejanus, the terrifyingly powerful right-hand man of the Emperor Tiberius. Sejanus had become, in essence, the co-ruler of Rome, and he was maneuvering to take the throne for himself. The conspiracy that brought him down wasn't hatched in the Senate House. It was pieced together in whispers at private dinner parties, in the secure confines of aristocratic homes, just like the pact between Lucius and Titus. The cena was the perfect place to gauge a man's loyalties, to sound him out, to see if he was one of us before making a move in public. So what becomes of our man, Lucius Vettius? His story doesn't have a simple, happy ending. Rome didn't do simple, happy endings. Let's imagine the path he chose. He accepts Titus's offer. He uses his expertise, his network, his inside knowledge of commerce. A fire breaks out at Curio's northern warehouse, a tragic accident, of course. A key shipment of Spanish olive oil is lost at sea in a storm that never happened. A business partner of Curio's suddenly calls in a massive debt. One by one, the pillars of Curio's financial empire crumble. Within a year, he is ruined, forced to sell his family's estates and retreat from public life in disgrace. No one can prove anything. It all just looks like a string of bad luck. Lucius is rewarded. Titus, true to his word, becomes his patron. With Titus's backing, Lucius Vettius eventually achieves his dream. He is elected to the Senate. He wears the senator's tunic with its broad purple stripe. His sons will have the future he always wanted for them. He won. But years later we see him. He is a senator, yes. He sits in the Curia, the Senate House. He has a grander villa now, but he is a changed man. He is perpetually anxious, always looking over his shoulder. He is forever bound to Titus, forced to vote as Titus commands, to support Titus's allies and attack Titus's enemies. He is no longer his own man. He is a cog in Titus's political machine. The paranoia he felt on that first night never went away. It became his constant companion. He is a man who attends many dinner parties now, but he is never truly a guest. He is always watching, listening, calculating. He won the game, but somewhere along the way, he lost himself. He has a seat at the table, but he can never enjoy the meal. The Roman cena was a microcosm of Rome itself. It was a dazzling, brilliant, sophisticated display of culture, wealth, and power. But it was built on a brutal foundation of social hierarchy, ruthless ambition, and a casual cruelty that is shocking to us today. It was a theater where the drama of the Republic played out in miniature, where fortunes were made and lives were shattered, one course at a time. The story of Lucius Vettius is the story of anyone who has ever been seduced by power, anyone who has ever gambled their soul for a seat at the table, only to find that the price of admission was higher than they could ever have imagined. And that's where the story of the Roman dinner party comes to its dramatic close. If you enjoyed this dive into the past, do us a huge favor and hit that like button and subscribe to Beast History so you don't miss what's next. We've got so many more insane stories ready for you. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.